Good evening. Tonight we talk about homeschool, schools, whichever you need and whichever everyone is using. When we talk about school, it is my humble opinion that it is only part of education. Unfortunately, once children start school, it is as if it is now the thing in their lives until they finish school. But it is only part of their education. School is only the academic training. It is not the emotional and not the spiritual. It's definitely in these days, it doesn't include all these other things. It doesn't include life training. And remember we said that if we go back to Deuteronomy 6, that says that it is a lifestyle as we go, wherever we go. So if we keep that concept in mind, we can use anything. We can make use of schools. I know for many people homeschooling is a rather a new concept, even though it's been around for quite many years. I don't know who of you know how old are public schools. Does anyone have an idea how old is public schools? Officially, it's about 150 to 200 years old, public schools as we know them today. Public schools are the new concept, not something in the sense of homeschooling. It's the public schools that are new, but we have been so almost taken over by this concept that now the homeschools are in the minority. I looked up a bit on the statistics. In America, they have 2 million children homeschooling. 2 million children, approximately homeschooling in America. In South Africa, it is between, they average because they are not sure and they do not have all the statistics on this, but it averages between about 50,000 and 75,000, which is quite a lot for something which is relatively new in South Africa. Although even in South Africa it is new, many of our previous, even prime ministers and presidents were homeschooled. People do not know that, but it is actually a fact. So it is not about the school concept. It is a tool. Once again, it is just a tool. We need to educate our children, and to educate them, we need them to have education, specific intellectual education. So which tool are you using? But the tool that you are using are going to influence your entire lifestyle. Things that is just a fact about schools, for instance, is that the child is in that setup, in the school building or in that whole area of life for such a long time each day that the role that the parents play unfortunately becomes very small. That also has the idea, or it communicates the idea to parents that kind of now the school takes the control of this area, which is not true. Because who is still teaching children to spell? Who is still teaching them their multiplication tables? It is impossible for any teacher in a school with 30, 40 children to do that. It is impossible. So it is still the parents. You are actually, even if you make use of a school, I want to tell you, you are still homeschooling your child. Because you are still the one who is actually teaching them to read and write and to count. You are the one to teach them. If you do not do that, then your child will become part of the statistics that say that in the United Kingdom, they say that most matrics, and they actually have statistics, I didn't look it up, sorry, I didn't think about that, but most of them cannot even read their matric certificate. That is how bad our reading have become. Because parents are no longer involved in the education of their children. So it is not for parents to just say, I can now just wash my hands and someone else, I can send my kid off to school and someone else will do the job. If we look at it further, we will see that that is partly why so many of the problems that children encounter in a school situation actually exist and is a problem is because the parents are not involved. Parents who are involved in their child's school, even though the child is in a school, whichever school form it is, a private, public, it doesn't matter, it's an organized school outside your home. If the parents are involved, at least in their children's lives, in the afternoons and the evenings, the sport field, they will soon notice certain things happening in their children's lives. They will see who their children are friends with. They will see how their children are reading. They will go through their homework. Well, they will know what's happening. They know what their children are reading about or learning about. So it is not, when I promote homeschooling, understand that I am not saying that the formal school setup is wrong or is not an option for some parents. I understand that it is an option. So just understand that when you put your child in a school, you can never give away the authority that you have over your child. God will not come to the teacher and ask him, what did he do? Did he play his role right in those children's lives? Of course, in a job setup, he will. But that child is still your main responsibility. And you remain responsible for that child. So especially in areas such as emotionally, in life training, it does not take place in schools. We can say whatever we like, those things are not addressed in a school setup. And the main problem in our society today is everything in our modern society have become, in a sense, isolated or cut off from the home. In previous generations, everything happened in the home. For more than 500 years, even after Christ, everything concerning Christianity happened inside homes. They gathered in homes. Then we started building a separate building. Now the separate building is not wrong because we can only house so many people in a house situation because of enough room for people. But with that came the idea in our minds that we go to church. So when I've attended the meetings, which is only a meeting there, I can make a tick and say, I have now done my duty on that area. But it is not true. I live my life as a Christian. I live my life with certain values and principles. So we can never separate that. That's why so many people have in their minds, I can do business in a specific way, and then I can come sit in church and know that here we do it in a specific way. But it's not the same. The world is something else out there. No, you live one life. You are one person. You cannot separate yourself and say, I can be one type of person here and another type of person here. If we can start living one life again, it would have the better effect also on our children, to understand that it is one life that I live. Wherever I go, it is one life, and I live that life. I show that to my children, to the people around me. I was quite, it really shocked me almost. We have this specific dog, and which is quite a nice looking dog, the husky, and people kind of notice, but I didn't realize, I mean, if you go walking in a neighborhood, you don't really see people sometimes, but the times that we walk the dog, and we never saw people. And then we would meet people in different settings that they would come to us and say, aren't you the parent of that girl with the dog? And I was like, where did you see her? Because it's like you don't see anybody. But people notice, even silly little things like that, they notice and they come and they talk to you about it. So to understand that it is a life that we live. Now, the difference between, if I can just talk about that specific thing on homeschooling, that is what makes it so much more simple. The tool that we use can make it more easier for us or more difficult. Primary school is still one thing, but especially in high school, it is as if it just swallows up a child's life or a young adult's life completely, so that there is so little time left for family and for actually doing things together. Everyone, it's as if all the kids start having their own life and it just kind of fizzles out. Everyone goes their own way. Whereas when you homeschool, it stays together as a unity. It is the family is the basic unit of society. If we can have the families healthy and we can mentor the right thing and disciple it right there in the family, then society will be healthy as a whole. So I'm not saying, as I said, that homeschooling is for everyone. It is just, I think, in a sense, maybe for the parents who have to do the job, maybe more difficult because they cannot just drop their kids off for a few hours each day. But on the other hand, it makes it easier because you don't have to work against the tide of everything that is brought into your child's life, and now you have to tell them, no, that's not the way it's done, this is not the way it's done. So you understand the difficulty that we sit with. You see things coming into your home and you have to, from a very young age, start explaining things that otherwise you could have left till later. They were not exposed to certain things, whereas in a school setup, you have no option. You have to work before that. You have to start preparing them on subjects that I think sometimes they don't even understand, or we should leave them in innocence for a while longer. So when we put our kids in the school, just to remember to have that concept in our minds. When I put my kid in a specific place, and I'm not just talking about school, I'm talking about anywhere you leave your child and you walk away, even if it's for how long, the authority is still yours. You give the mandate to that person for a few hours, but it is as if you put your mark of approval by leaving the child with that person. You also approve what is being downloaded into your child's life. And that is the problem. So make sure where you leave your child and with whom you leave your child, because you still carry the authority. And of course, people are different, but different doesn't mean wrong. So there are amazing people out there. But if you pick up that something is wrong with that child, it is still your child. You should go to the school, and I believe that as parents, if we stand up more and more and say, listen, I trust you to do this. I really trust you. So that's why I'm bringing my kid to your school and to your class. But now I've picked up there's a problem. Can we sort this? Can we do something about this problem? Not to just leave it and, oh, well, it's just for the year. Maybe this teacher, it will pass, you know? So sometimes it's good for the child to work through certain problems, and you work with them and you explain it to them, and they can understand that, listen, there's always going to be people in life that maybe doesn't like me, or doesn't like the way I talk or write, or whatever the kid has to do. But if this is a constant problem, eventually it can be, if it's on a long term, it's not good for the child. So to remember, it's your authority, it's your child, do something about it. Don't just sit back and wait for it to change or to go away, because it might not. It might create a bigger problem in the future somewhere. So stand up and take your authority on that. Yes, on the school, the time is really, you have to, I think it is, as I said, harder when your kids are in a specific school outside your home, because the hours or the time that you have with them, now you come at home, you still have to prepare food, you still have to do the housework or whatever you have to do, and then spend time with your children. But it is part of life. If we take up that responsibility for children, that is what we do, is to make sure that they are on a secure and a healthy level, and they grow in every area of their life. If we can quickly go through some of the homeschooling things. I have the whole concept, we've talked about the whole concept of life being a community, and every area of life being community. We said even with the Industrial Revolution, the father's work was taken out of the home, whereas previously it was from the home, and he worked from home. In a sense, I think we're getting some of that back again. I see even in the city here, many of the office blocks going empty, and people talking, but people are positioning themselves from home now in their offices because it's just so much less expensive. So yes, I think we do have whereas there was an exodus from the home, it is now changing back again, which is a good thing. It takes more discipline from people to work from home where there are many distractions and even small children, but it is a good thing because children see more of their parents, there's more of them around. Some of the things of the homeschooling that I want to talk about is one of the things I think is we don't think about is just there are so many areas where they have more freedom to make decisions. There's more room for making your own decisions about things, such as educational freedom. You don't need a specific teacher for a specific subject. One of the areas that I feel is incredibly important is the responsibility that the child takes. Now, I think if we as parents go back to the way things were, maybe even 50 or 100 years, I think just 50 years ago would be fine, their education was not the teacher's responsibility. It was the child's responsibility to make sure that he had good marks, that he gave his best. There's somehow a concept in our society today that it is the teacher's responsibility. We look at the general, the averages of the marks, and we say, no, but it is not a good teacher because look where the average is. We look at certain things, and I agree that there are, in a sense, it can happen. Of course, we have people who are maybe not good at teaching or maybe not giving their best. But I think there's this concept that it's the teacher's responsibility to help me pass, to help me, do good, do well. And it's not true. It is every one of us has a responsibility in life. And with homeschooling, that is almost a given. It is the child has to go through the work. You can explain, you help, but there isn't trained people. This is it. We work through this work, and this is your responsibility. You have to do well. You have to take up that responsibility. Whereas in a school situation, it's like everyone tries to see with how much they can almost get away with. In a home situation, there's no room for that. You know your child. You know whether they really have a headache. You can see, no, that's just the ruse, there's nothing wrong with them. They just want to stay in bed a bit. So, all right, fine, you can stay there in bed, but there's your book. Keep yourself busy with your book. You're a bit behind on your reading. So read some extra today, or those exercises, you can still do that in bed. And so there's no getting away from it, in a sense. And then they start realizing, well, rather just do it and get it over with. And that routine that you set in their lives really becomes a thing where they take up the responsibility and they realize it's nobody's loss or problem if I don't do well in life. It's my responsibility, it's my marks. I have to do it. So it's not like everyone, you push them to all have the best marks, but if people believe in you, you also do better. And who believes more in children than a parent? The parents are not necessarily the most qualified, obviously, but because they believe in their children. So therefore I say that if a parent in the first place backs the teachers, in other words, if the child has done something wrong, and the teacher has punished you, don't come and cry on my shoulder. You were responsible for that. You brought it on yourself. So don't neglect to do your homework again, or don't neglect to go playing when you should have studied, and now you don't have good marks. It's not the teacher's problem, it's your problem. So if we can, as parents, just be more strict. I remember in our days, maybe it was very harsh, but in our days and our parents, if you would go to your parents and complain about something the teachers did, then you would also get more punishment. Instead of them sympathizing with you, you would also be punished. So, but now it's like, oh my goodness, what did that teacher do to you? You poor thing, and it's always shame, the poor child. So there's too much of an emphasis on the child of shame, everyone's so hard on you, But it's not like that in life, is it? Once you get into the workplace, it doesn't work that way. And there's this quote, I think it was a headmaster, a principal that said to the kids, stop whining, start getting up, stop complaining about life, because sure, it's not nice, it's not everything you want it to be, it's not so much fun as you thought it would be, but hey, you think your parents aren't fun, but who pays for the fun? They work so you can have fun. Really? So just that concept of taking up responsibility. It's not that we don't want them to have fun. Of course we must have fun. We must all have fun. But then to realize that it has consequences. And to take up that responsibility. I find with homeschooling and with that concept in mind, I find that kids, they do interesting things. You see how some of them tend to do their work more towards the evening. The night owls, they will sit, they only come alive, after 10 in the mornings. So, and they start working and it drags out a bit, but comes evening, they get a second breath and there they go, they do their work and they sit till late at night. And then you get the early morning people and you see how really, I'm talking about 10, 11, 12-year-old kids who realize it's their best time and they get up early at 5 or 6 o'clock in the mornings and by 8, 9 o'clock they're finished. And they're like, now I've got the day for myself, and it's like that achievement, that accomplishment, and getting to know when they work best and how they work best, giving them that freedom to get to know themselves, and when they have that responsibility to finish it in their own specific way. It's just I think, like we said, that freedom to be able to do that. Once they have the responsibility, you can allow them that freedom. Obviously, when they don't keep to the restrictions, then you put them back in place and say, oh, well, sorry for you, but, you've got to finish this work today, so no matter how late it gets, you've got to work. Yes, the emotional freedom, many of the problems that we talk about, I actually read up, there's some statistics on bullying, peer pressure. They say that, and interesting enough, I didn't realize that, they say that the middle school girls especially is really very influenced by this, by peer pressure and specifically bullying. I didn't think it would be amongst girls so much of a thing. But they say that in a homeschool situation, they actually do much better because there's not that pressure on them. And it's statistically, they've proven that. So I haven't heard about that one, but yeah. but in a homeschool setup, there's not that unhealthy competition thing. That kids feel that, I'm not good enough because my marks say I'm not good enough. I'm just here around in the middle, or I'm on the lower part of the marks, and everyone else is doing better than me. So you have to, as a parent, work harder to just have your child understand his own identity and that he is good enough, in spite of his marks, because marks is not everything. The academics is not everything in life. It is part of my life. It is not everything. And maybe my talent is rather in a different area, but I don't get marks for that. It is not something that is noticeable. So I found that even with academic areas, I've seen in our family, we always used to talk about my one cousin, and then we saw the same thing with my own brother, who would be quite an average student in school. I mean, when he went to study, I thought, okay, I hope, my father's not wasting his money. And he was really an average C, here and there a B student, but he got accepted and he started studying. And at the end of it, he went to the Technikon because it was practical and they advised him to do the course there. At the end of his 4 year, he finished his degree through the Technikon actually, and by the end of his course, I did not realize that they do the averages in that subject across the country and across all the institutions. Not just the Technikons, but also the colleges and the universities. And they have a special prize for the best student over the 4 years in all those specific institutions. We were not aware of it. And he asked my parents, well, are you coming to the graduation? And they said, of course we're coming. So, by the way, why are you asking? He said, no, I just have to give the numbers through. And, there's a little something extra that I get, but no big deal. And he wouldn't tell. And when they got there, the dean was coming to them and, especially greeting them, and they were like, oh, this is a great place. We picked the right place. These people are so interested in every parent and, giving such interest. And in the end, he got this prize, and he was this average school student. And here he was the best. And I'm not saying it because it was my brother. I can use lots of examples where only after school, once you get your real interest and your real talents going, suddenly you can excel. So school, in that sense, is sometimes tough on kids. It's hard on them to excel in areas that they are not good at, and where it's expected of them to succeed and to be good at, and they are not. So really, I think it's so much harder for the parent to keep enforcing that the child's identity and to keep telling them, but you are good, you are great, you are so exceptional in your area. We must just, as a person, I can see that in you. I can see the way you treat other people. I can see that in the way you do specific things. Just being yourself, I see that, I know that. I know that from God's word, because that is the foundation. But if their marks are constantly low or just average, it's almost like they look at you and they think, right, I know the truth. I can see the truth about my own life. So school, and even with homeschool, they don't so much, they cannot do that comparing, because there aren't so many others to compare themselves to, and we can work around those things. There's not such a focus on marks and on how well they do. So you can get away with a lot more than in a school setup. You have to, as a parent, work so much harder to really have them, cement that idea in their identity and who they are and how special everyone is. But maybe not in math, maybe not even in spelling. And because we've sat with that problem, and I have kids who really struggled, and because it's not their talents, but they are so talented that I said to them, by the time that you can properly read and write, other kids will never be able to do what you will do, but you will be able to do more or less what they do, but they will never do what you do. But it is such a struggle sometimes to be able to tell kids that, and especially in a school setup, you get the idea. I think many of us older people have been through that and have experienced that in our own lives. So I do know you know about that. The family relationships is a big area for me. Whether we have our children in schools or at home, but to cement the family relationships. One thing we found or the main complaint against homeschooling is that children do not properly socialize. Now, the interesting thing is that we traveled such a lot, and we found the exact opposite. We found that our children, who were for the most part, when they were small, they were rather introverts, most of them. And we found that they would interact far better with any strange children than the children themselves at whom we were visiting. Because those children, once they found out the exact ages and grades of our children, they would just turn around and leave them there. If they were not the same grades as our children, they were not interested anymore. Because that's the way the school system works. I only have anything in relationship with you or related with you if you are on the same level. If you are also in grade 6, we can have a friendship, we can have a relationship. And that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because the moment you leave school, it doesn't work that way in life. You can have friends who are 20 years and 30 years older, or you can have, young adults who are best friends with you, and it doesn't matter anymore. But in the school setup, we think that they socialize because there are so many hundreds of other kids in the school. And really, if we look at how many they are actually friends with, how many we were actually really friends with, it's a handful for each person. That's the way it works. So the socializing thing in a home setup, they have to be friends with everyone. The options are so small that, you know, you have to work through relationships. You have to work through problems. You can't just leave it. It's got to be solved because that makes your day rather, you know, not so nice if there are all these moods and all these things. You work through it. Whereas in a school setup, you know, if we have a fight, I don't need to talk to you for a few days because there's other people. I can ignore you and talk to other people. I never have to really work through it. And then it just blows over and okay, now we're friends again. But in the home setup, we have to work because we realize these relationships are for life. They're not going to go away so easily, and we have to be friends. So it's almost a natural thing more for children to understand that they are friends. We went to homeschool conferences over the years, and we would suddenly come outside, and strange children, they would not know one another until the conference started. And there the matrics would be, you know, busy with the small kids or swinging the primary school kids, happily playing along with them, which you would never see in a normal school setup. It would not. It was even for us. It was rare. You know, it was like, whoa, what's happening here? And it's not just one place. You get to a different homeschool group and you see the same things happening over and over just because of the lifestyle, the way things are done. They live in these small groups and they have to get along with everyone, whether it's a grandmother or father or a parent or a sibling, younger and older. It's all on different levels, and I have to make I have to understand how maybe a 2-year-old functions and have to make room for them and be kind to them. Because, yeah, well, it's maybe my only friend, so that's good. Then I make friends with you. And the relationships are so close. The other thing about homeschooling and that we have to incorporate in school is that we said that academics is not everything, but how do we teach our children to be adapted to life? How many adults today know how to do basic life things, just basic life skills? We were talking about growing our own vegetable gardens. Even small things like just teaching them how to properly do the normal life things of a home, cook food. How many girls go out of a home and they don't know how to properly cook food? So once they get married, suddenly it's a crisis because they've never been taught how to cook food. Whereas in a homeschool setup, tasks are more shared. It's a normal thing that, well, Mommy's been teaching us all this time now, so, well, someone has to cook the food, and we are here, and our schoolwork's now done. It's not like we are at a school, and we come home once the food is cooked. So it's nobody's fault, it's just a natural thing that happens. So once they are in a public school, we have to sit down and think, how do we train children to be adapted to life? To live life. What are the things that are necessary to just plain live life? To be able to put in a basic seam in a dress. To be able to just put on a button. To be able to just know the basics in a car. And not just, once the tires are flat, I don't know what to do. We've trained even our daughters because they go off in their own cars and we want them to be safe. We talked tonight here about people being attacked next to the road when the car broke. You have to get you can't be there in time before something happens. Those kids have to know, those young women now starting to drive have to be able to help themselves and quickly and efficiently so that they are not, just victims of whatever. They must be able to help themselves in different ways. So just normal, everyday life skills, to teach that to our children as they grow up. And you start small. You start asking them to give you the right tools as you are doing the job. And then eventually you have them do parts of the job, and eventually they take over the complete job, and you just look on and supervise what they are doing. So when our kids are in school, it's inevitable that because of time, it would not be such a normal or a obvious process. But take note of it, make a list if you have to, and make sure that it's taught to them, that they know these things, and that we spend time around just living life as a family. Not like, I think there's this idea sometimes of school children, their homework is not my problem. It's my parents' problem. You know, I have my schoolwork. I'm responsible for the school and my sport and everything around my life. So everything just it revolves around those students and not around the home. They have to know they have responsibility in the home. Everyone else works hard. Let them help take responsibility to take out the trash, to help cook the food, to set the table, to clean the dishes. Someone has to do it. And too often the parents just do everything and the kids just go off to play. Whereas if they quickly help, at least help to do it, then it's quickly finished and everyone has some spare time to do something else. And we think we are being hard on them. No, they're going to go out there and they're going to have to do it themselves. And we haven't taught them, and now it's a core, it's something hard to do. No, it's not. It's quickly and let's just get it done. Especially for smaller children, I think just the practical thing of not having to go out in the cold or go outside and be, early in the mornings, wake up small babies to take to creche or something. I think that's very practical. But yeah, we'll have to check up. Actually, they say the statistics actually say that the kids are just better. They are just more healthy and more rested when they are homeschooled because they don't have to get up so early and they can sleep in a half an hour longer or an hour later, and they have that energy that they can use. So, and of course, then something nice about homeschooling is there's not homework. And really in the sense that you do the work in the mornings, they've done studies and they've said that what homeschoolers do in a few hours, other public school children do in a week. Just because of the time wasted between shifting classes, or then the kids making a noise, or the teacher is still busy explaining to someone else and you're already finished with your work, now you sit and you wait. All that time that's wasted, it really makes a difference. So there's lots more time to be more focused and to really work on some specific things. You really get more done. I've found that I had spent less time, at least with the primary school children, I spent less time finishing the entire curriculum for the day than my friends would spend on their kids' homework in the afternoons. And I did the entire curriculum, everything with them in detail, and we spent less time on all the work for the day than other kids had to spend on just their homework in the afternoons. So it does make a difference, but it's not, as I said, it's not wrong. You just have to work harder at getting everything done. It meant I had more time to do other things and to show them other skills in life and to do things. So something that's a problem with is like team sports and things like that can be limited. But in the cities, it's not so much of a problem. Even with, I find schools sometimes, if they do not have enough students, they are willing to take in homeschoolers, and it's very nice for them to have them, especially if they are good. But we found that parents of students in the school sometimes complain, and they want their child to have that nice position that your child is now having, and because your kid's not in the school, then they work them out. So yes, it can be. There are things that can be a problem. I'm not saying homeschooling is without problems and it has only plus points. I'm not saying that. But remember what I said, it's a tool. It's how we handle these things and what we do with it that makes the difference. We want our children to be adapted to life. We want them to live life, not just to have a matric certificate, which is great. We have to have that, and it's good. But we want them to be adapted to life. So whichever tool you choose, Just sit down and realize you are still the primary person that has to disciple your child in every area of his or her life. It's not just about get them to know their alphabet or get them to know their tables and they are set for life. And it's not true. It's a whole discipleship life.